Thank you. So, when I was contacted a couple of days ago, the topic I was given was just like an overview of this particular area of focus, basic education and literacy. I saw earlier today from the flyer that I was supposed to focus on how it affects nation building and community advancement. By that time, I apologize, it was too late for me to make amendments. I was already at the social event from which I'm just coming in. So you will please bear with me that what I'm going to be sharing with you this evening is basically an overview of basic education and literacy as an area of focus in Rotary. But of course, I believe that we would be able to also just link it, considering the importance of education in a national space. Right. So I have just about 10 minutes, I believe, and I'll try to make it as brief and impactful as possible. So the first thing I want us to look at jointly is the vision statement of Rotary International. I overheard the president saying that a lot of the participants at today's meetings are new members. So it's actually a great opportunity. So on my screen is the vision statement of Rotary International. This describes everything Rotary is about and everything we aim to be. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create a lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. So this is all Rotary sets out to do. Create lasting change, not just by speaking to it, but by actually taking action. And that's why we call ourselves, Rotarians call ourselves people of action. For this action to be impactful, for it to be effective, it's important that the projects that we do, the interventions that we make are streamlined. So we don't just go out there doing this humanitarian work, this charity work, that's community project all over the place, and then we don't have actual focus. So Rotary has streamlined all of the work that we expect to do in our communities into 7 areas of focus, one of which is what we're talking about this evening. So I'm just going to quickly discuss with you the other 6 areas of focus. Right. So at the heart of our work is peace building and conflict prevention. Rotary has spent a lot of time, a lot of resources trying to work in this area of focus. We have several peace centers around the world and about 2 in Africa that produces peace scholars every year. And these scholars work to ensure that we achieve our goal of universal peace. And then, of course, we also have the maternal and child health. I'm sure last month, we're in August now, right? So you would have seen clubs executing projects that has to do with maternal and child health. That is because July was the month of observance for maternal and child health. And then we have basic education and literacy, which is what we're supposed to observe in this month of September and what we are discussing this evening. And water sanitation and disease prevention and treatment, economic and community development. And then finally, we have the last one that was introduced just about 3 years ago, supporting the environment. So I'm just sharing this so that we all have a working knowledge of the areas of focus in Rotary. So basic education and literacy. it's one may start to wonder why Rotary decided, out of so many challenges, so many problems that we could choose to tackle, why we decided to focus on basic education and literacy. And the reason is not far-fetched. It's uneducated people are able to determine for themselves the kind of future that they want to have, because they are better able to know where they're coming from, where they are, and where they want to be. It's been said that the ability to read and write is pivotal in preserving our history and shaping our future. As Africans, particularly as Nigerians, perhaps we will have a better understanding of what this, of the implication of being able to read, being able to write, being able to put down our history. When we compare where we are with what happens in, let's take the United Kingdom, for example, we begin to see the effect of knowing one's history. Not many of us can comfortably explain where we were 100 years ago as a country. Whereas when you look at the country that we're comparing ourselves with, that's the United Kingdom, you find out that, I mean, they can actually tell you their history down to 200, 300, even 400 years. That's because they were able to put it down. They were able to put their records down. And so Rotary supports education and literacy initiatives so that more people can overcome illiteracy. One of the main, or one of the sustainable development goals is to make sure that we achieve adult literacy, universal adult literacy by 2030. And that's just to tell you how important literacy is. But you see, the only reason Rotary decided to delve into basic education and literacy is because there was a gap. Things were not as they should be. So the way I want us to look at it this evening is to look at the problem and then look at not just the solution, but the end game, where we want to be, and then how can we get there. Then as a Rotary Club, what are the things we can do to actually get to the end game that solves the problem. And so I'll share with you some statistics, some numbers. As of 2022, this is the figures that we have. An estimated 754 million adults are illiterate. 496 million of that number are women. So we have an astoundingly higher percentage of women as illiterate than we have men. And guess what? In sub-Saharan Africa, we have the highest percentage, 32.28% of this 754 million can be found in our continent, in sub-Saharan Africa. Fortunately for us, not only do we have the highest number of illiterates, we also have the lowest number of people that can take them from being illiterate to literacy. So sub-Saharan Africa has the lowest percentage of trained teachers. In our primary sector, we have 65%. And then at the secondary level, we have just 51%. It's a far cry to where we want to be and where we should be. So here is actually the problem. Now, what is our end game? What's the ideal situation? What do we hope to achieve? At what point can we say, okay, we can take a step back because we have solved the problem of basic education and literacy? The Sustainable Development Goals Target 4.6 aims to achieve universal youth and adult literacy and numeracy by 2030. That is just 6 years from now. Whereas 2 years ago, we had a whopping 754 million, illiterates all around the world. So you can see that we have our work cut out for us. Apologies. So now that we know the end game, I want us to look at what we need. In talking earlier, I pointed out that particularly for us in sub-Saharan Africa, we had a very, very critical shortfall of trained professionals who are in the teaching sector. Now, it is estimated that we would need 68 million teachers to achieve that end game. If we want to have a universal literacy level by 2030, in the next 6 years, we need to have 68 million teachers more than we have right now. 24 million of those in the primary sector, and then 44 million in the secondary sector. We also have to have zero barriers to students' access to education. And you know, there are a lot of barriers. There's a cultural barrier, there's an economic barrier, social barrier, financial barriers, insecurity. There are a lot of reasons why people cannot attend school, why people cannot get access to education, why people cannot get access to books. So we need to work to remove all of these barriers across the world. That's our need. So I asked the question, if you go back and look at our vision statement, you remember we said that together we see a world where we unite, we take action, we create lasting change in the globe, as in the world, in our communities, and in ourselves. So as far as this particular issue is concerned, how can we create lasting change? Because after all, we're people of action, and what we want to do is solve problems. I have tried to toe two lines. There are two things we critically must do if we want to achieve universal adult literacy. We need to develop professional teachers. We already know that we need 68 million of those. So we need, it's a need that needs to be fulfilled. And I've tried to come up with a few tips, a few ideas of how we can go, what the way our mind should be working in this direction. And so we can consult with educational officials and stakeholders to design and promote appropriate teacher training programs, because curriculum programs needs may be different from place to place. That's why we need to consult with those that are actually stakeholders in the sector. And then the ways to implement them that will complement existing curriculum. Right? That's important. And then we can also develop long-term partnerships with our teachers to ensure that they have access to contemporary training aids and materials. If we need to be where we want to be by 2030, we're going to have to provide a lot of resources for those that are already in that field as teachers to make their job a lot easier, so that they are able to share knowledge, they're able to share education to more people within a shorter time. So another way we can also develop professional teachers is to have frank discussions with the stakeholders, especially the teachers, while or before we start to plan projects and interventions, to make sure that we understand their goals, their strengths, their challenges, and their needs. Before we do any project, particularly global grants in Rotary, it's important that we do needs assessment. And this is what this is talking about. We don't just go into the educational sector and believe that we know the kind of project that will make the most impact. We need to engage the stakeholders to know exactly what they're looking for and what will help. And flowing from the information that we gather, we're able to develop impactful projects for that sector. And then critically, we need to make teaching an attractive career. A lot of people, most people would not choose teaching as, teaching will not be their first choice of career for them. Even those that are trained in the educational sector, if you have people that come out with bachelors of education or people that go to the College of Education, you see that immediately they finish, they're trying to get another certification so that they can cross into another professional field. They're really not interested in teaching. And that's because, well, principally, let's just say teachers are poorly paid. So these are some of the areas that we need to look at as people that are intending to make a lasting change. So now, if we're able to do a bit of all of this and we develop our teachers, then we need to go the other way, because it's a two-way traffic. There's the teachers, there's the students, and then we need to support our students, particularly the female child. You remember that out of the figure of 750 something, we have almost 500 million of that as females. So we need to remove barriers to girls' education. Some of these barriers are caused by cultural attitudes, safety concerns, and the need for the girls to contribute to the house economy of the household. So some of these things are things we need to work on. It may be by way of advocacy. It may be by way of providing alternative sources of income for the particular family. It may be by removing those safety concerns that we have. We also need to empower students, parents, teachers, and administrators to be decision makers in our activities. They must play a key role. They must play a pivotal role. We cannot be the ones making all of the decisions because we are not in that sector, right? So some other ways that I've suggested that we can support students is to work with local organizations that can assist to organize training, tutoring, adult literacy, and or mentoring programs. There are already organizations we have in our communities that spend a lot of time and a lot of resources in these areas, particularly adult literacy. So we can work with them, we can partner with them just to boost the impact that they're able to make. We can also, of course, remove barriers to basic education. There are areas, even in Nigeria today, where for you to get to any primary school, you would travel a minimum of 6 to 10 kilometers. You can imagine the difficulty or what it would take for a child to want to actually go to school in a place like that. So cultural attitude, you see, there's still parts of Nigeria where it's not considered that a child should go to school. You'd rather go to the farm and start making money, or you'd rather walk, just follow your father's footsteps, if I may use, that phrase. For artisans, for unskilled labor, they'd rather let their children, toe that path than actually go to school, because they're like, oh, my child can make so much today. Why would I need to spend what I'm making to send the child to school? So all of these barriers are things that we need to work on. Insecurity and all of that are things we need to work on if we are going to support our students in getting access to education. So these are ideas, right? So what I would encourage And what would be great to see is that now, as Rotary clubs that understand the problems in this area and the solution, so to speak, and that's the end game. We also know the needs. We know what we need to do. What actions do we take? Because that's what sets Rotary apart from most other charitable organizations. I tell people a lot of times that I would not describe Rotary International as a charitable organization. I would rather describe it as a service organization because we do beyond charity and humanitarian works. We actually put our money where our mouth is. We actually walk the talk. We're people of action. So, having said all of this, what actions can we take? I've suggested a few, and I'm sure that at your own time as a club, when you sit down to look at the areas that you want to come in, you may want to add to it or take some of the suggestions that I have here. So I have that we can organize vocational training teams that will offer underserved communities training in how to implement simple curriculum. So we have places that don't have any access to education. It's possible for us to gather a vocational team that goes there and is able to train a particular group that can, work using a simple curriculum to teach the kids in that community, thereby bringing education into the community. Excuse me. We can also provide professional development for teachers and supplies such as teaching aids, textbooks, classroom enhancements. Those are some of the projects we can do. We can institute a reward protocol for deserving teachers. I know that a few years back, some states started to award or give rewards to the teacher of the year, right? You had teacher of the year getting a car, getting a house, getting, some sort of sums of money. That's one way we can make the profession, attractive. So we can do that. We can also organize a symposium with stakeholders and then try to increase public awareness of the need and where we want to be. That we can do, a lot of advocacy in this regard. I've also suggested that we can promote student enrollment and prevent absences by helping communities provide safe drinking water. This is one of the things that stop children from going to school because you need to go to the river to fetch water. So the community has access to water, and the child has more time on hand to go to school. We can have gender segregated toilets. Believe me, there are places, particularly in the northern part of our country, where the reason why females don't go to school is because they are subjected to using the same toilet facilities as male. So when you have a toilet facility that is separate for females and male, are going to be encouraging the parents to send their daughters to school. We can have classrooms in underserved communities. You can also volunteer with a classroom or after-school program to be a tutor. We can provide real access to books. If you go around our primary schools now, you find out that 90% of primary schools do not have libraries. So they just go to school and then they take the normal lessons and then go back home. So this is a way that we can come in to provide access to books, and not just for those in schools, for those in communities where there are no schools. The more people read, the more they develop their knowledge base and they're able to think for themselves. And then when we have resistance to education, where we have parents saying, I'm a bricklayer, I would rather let my child also become a mason like me, we can start to have advocacy in areas like that so that the parents are able to see or understand the reason why they should send their children to school. So these are some of the areas that I've identified. Like I said, when you sit down together as a club, trying to determine what projects that you want to tackle. These ideas may help, and then you can also come up with new ones in this area so that we can, like I said, make lasting change in these areas, particularly in our own communities, and who knows, maybe in ourselves. It's been a lovely 15 minutes or thereabouts, sharing my thoughts on the subject of basic education and literacy with you all. And these are some of my resources where I got the facts and the figures that are bandied about in the course of this discussion or this presentation. And you can have that. I'm going to send my slide to the Vice President so that he may share it with you. I thank you very, very much for the opportunity to, speak with you on this very important area of focus that we have. And I hope that going forward, the club will actually decide to take some concrete actions, some concrete steps in the area of basic education and literacy. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very, very, very much, sir.
If you want to be a good speaker,
join the Rotary.
if you want to be a good speaker,
Join the
join the
Rotary.
Rotary.